2020,
Definitely.
man, it was a year where they canceled the season. The pandemic's going on. It's still going on. But with the time that you had off, how did you take advantage of the situation?
Honestly, for for me in the situation, I wanted to fight anyways, but it didn't accumulate. So there's nothing I could do about it besides, just make the best out of my time. And obviously, my wife and I were trying for a baby before the pandemic hit. We were in Hawaii in January after my last fight of 2019, and just enjoying our time together. And then we went for my birthday weekend in February to New York City and hung out there, and spent a bunch of time. And I'm glad we did all that traveling because during that time was like COVID was going around and nobody had any idea. Like I was in New York City in February. I was in LAX airport in January when they said the first case came through. Like I was at all these places and nobody had any idea. And then in March, everybody, just stopped moving. And that was really weird because I was basically quarantining at the house. And luckily enough, I had built my own gym in the basement, my own weightlifting gym, my own wrestling mats, heavy bags, sauna, treadmill, bike. Like I have pretty much everything down there just to have my own stuff. And it's something I always had growing up. My dad, the money that he did make, he basically put all into us on our wrestling and built us a gym in the basement and kind of did a similar thing of what I did in my basement. And so I was lucky enough to already have a gym down there for this quarantine. And we were still in training camp at that point because I was supposed to fight May 21st. And so basically I don't think we found out till May 1st that the season was canceled. So it was a Monday, I remember, because I own a landscaping and snow removal business in Columbus, and I was actually went out on my own and did one of my buddy's lawns. He has a like couple acre property where he's going to build on in the future, and I was basically doing the first spring mow on it, and I got off the mower. It takes about an hour or so to mow that. It was really strange because I was getting a bunch of text messages from people that I don't usually talk to every day, and I was like, something's up, something's weird. I had like a weird feeling in my gut too, and obviously, COVID was already like we were already doing the quarantine and not allowed to go. Everything was closed for that time period and stuff. So I knew all that was going on, but everybody was texting me like, "Hey man, did the season really get canceled, or did your fight really get canceled?" And this and that. My dad called me a bunch of times. Like, my parents are my biggest fans. I mean, besides my wife, I mean, my dad's probably my bigger fan than my wife, to be honest, just because he's been around since I was a little kid. He was always in my corner for wrestling matches at the highest level and everything. And he called me a bunch, and I was like, "Man, I hope something's not wrong with somebody in the family or whatever." And I I got on my phone and I found out on like Twitter or Instagram or something. I didn't even find out through my manager or PFL. And I was like, damn, there's no way this is true. Like, they're canceling the entire season without even knowing what's going on. And it was just like, it was kind of a weird feeling in my gut. And I was like, man, like, I'm blessed to be in the position where I was and have have won the first two seasons and done smart things with my money as far as investments and starting this business and having other real estate stuff. And I was just like, man, this is crazy because I had to kind of take a step back and figure out what the move was going to be. And I kind of just took off with the landscape company, and I started doing hardscapes like paver patios and fireplaces and stuff like that for outdoor living. And I have two really close friends who own businesses, and they were sending me some of their subcontract work. And I mean, it was so busy because everybody was working from home and everybody was still luckily able to work for the most part. For desk job type stuff, people were still at home working and wanted to do stuff on their back patio because they couldn't go anywhere. And so that just really took off. And I was really lucky to have a bunch of good people sending me a lot of work, and everything was basically word of mouth all summer. And I was able to get a lot of jobs and grow my experience also, and learning. Like I did one big patio in 2019, and that was really the only hardscapes I did. Everything else was I had a contract with a Costco by my house, and that was all maintenance though. That was like landscape maintenance, mulching, weed removal, stuff like that. It was basically a seasonal contract, and that was all I had done up to that point with landscaping. Um, and so doing the hardscapes, I liked it because you actually saw a result. Instead of like planting shrubs or trees or mulch, you build something for somebody that their whole family can enjoy, and they can light a fire either with the turn of a switch or put logs in there depending on what they wanted. And having the whole outdoor living space, it was a great experience for me in the summer to be able to learn a lot of that stuff. And Kenny Vaughn, one of my good buddies, he kind of took me under his wing, and all the subcontract jobs that he sent my way, he would come out personally. And if I had needed any help with anything or had any questions on anything, he would basically just go, what is it that you're trying to accomplish with these copings or borders or like sailor courses. Like there's a lot of different things that were going on the job, and I was like, dude, I don't know any of this. Like I have a good attention to detail, but I don't know the ins and outs of how to lay a patio, but I don't know how to do a seat wall or do a fire pit or cut a weird angle on a with a concrete saw. Like all these little details, man, I learned so much about it, and I grew a love for building this stuff because it became not second nature just yet, but it became something where I was like, okay, if I go in and do my own patio, I know exactly how I need to bid the job, how I need to set everything up, what materials I need to order. Um, it was just a great experience, man. Honestly, I could go on and on about the details of it, but um, to make a long story short on that end, I took the landscaping business and ran with it, and made it, made it what it is right now. And I have a lot of jobs lined up, and everything's going great. Obviously, on the East Coast, we're still getting frost and it's still cold, but we got a lot of jobs that are going to be coming up here, and it's going to get really busy here soon. So it's awesome. But I mean, it kind of kept my mind off of everything with being really frustrated with not fighting and not being able to fight because I asked for a release at that point also. So if anything else came up, I could take a short notice fight or something. But um, it kind of kept my mind off of that for a little bit, and I was learning new things and kept my mind working and kept my body working outside. I mean, you're working outside in 90-degree heat, 100-degree heat sometimes, and you're moving pavers around. Some paver block is big bricks, some is small pieces. So it's a lot of labor work, and I'm always out in the field with my business. I'm never really somebody who just like sends guys out and then takes a look at the final product. I want to be there and make sure things get done right the first time. That's just my personality. So I mean that was the main thing that I focused on, and focused on some real estate lending for people who were flipping. And obviously banks weren't loaning to people like that during that time and still aren't. So that's really thriving right now, and just blessed to be in the position to be able to do things like that, and have a lot of things to fall back on. I mean, I have a degree from Ohio State in communications, so I thought like, hey, if it really came down to it, I could get a job doing something with some alumni or whatever if I needed to. But luckily, it really never came to that. I was in a good position to where all my stuff was super busy, and I didn't really need to search around for work, and I didn't want to sit there and act like I was retired. I think a lot of people misconstrue like just because you win $1 million tournament or $2 million tournaments, that's not what you make. You have everybody that you pay, your managers, your coaches, your fight camp. Each fight has a fight camp that costs a lot of money. Um, on the low end, I would say a fight camp cost me maybe like 10 grand for everything that goes into it with my body, my nutrition. Um, and that's not even counting paying coaches and stuff. So there's a lot that goes into it. And you don't, if I sat all year and just rested on the money that I had, it wouldn't be, I wouldn't be happy right now. And I was already not happy when I found out that we weren't fighting all year. So I just turned a negative into a positive, and another positive was we actually conceived my daughter on the day that I was supposed to fight. So that was another thing that was like switch a negative with a positive, and it's all good, baby, baby.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I love it, man. I love hearing that. And you got, seems like you got everything set for life after fighting. So it's not like you're driven to just chase the money, man. You're chasing the competition. It seems like.
Yeah, I'm just motivated. I feel like I'm just motivated to be better in all aspects of whatever it is I'm doing. I mean, there was times where I took some of my cars out and raced them at the track, and my goal was to get faster times or beat certain people that I know that have been racing a long time. Like there was a lot of there was a lot of things I got to do to kind of get my mind out of the fight a little while, and it was super refreshing because up to that point I had 10 fights in less than 2 years. So I mean, we're talking June of 2018 until December 31st of 2019. I had 10 fights. I mean, that's a lot of fights, and that's less than 2 years. And I wouldn't say that my body was hurting at all, but it was definitely a grind being away from home all the time because the 2018 season I did in Las Vegas at Extreme Couture and 10th Planet, and then 2019 I headed over and started training with Frankie Edgar and Eddie Alvarez in New Jersey, and I always do cross training with Juan Archuleta in California and Anaheim. So there's like I'm always on the go and training anyways. So it was nice to actually be home, even though I worked a ton last summer. I was still able to come home to my wife every night, be able to sleep in my own bed every night. Um, it's just a different grind. The grind isn't as much of like training hard and getting ready for a fight and being away from my wife. It was grinding all day to build something or get a job done or get a tree removal done and then come home late at night and be able to sleep with my wife at night and sleep in my own bed. So just different challenges. COVID didn't really affect me as far as obviously with the fighting side of it, it did, but everything else it kind of thrived. So I feel like when you have a motivation just to be successful in no matter what it is, you're going to learn the ropes. And I was kind of forced to learn the ropes in that situation and just kind of dive in 100%. And it worked out to be great. And then, this past winter, we had one of the best snow seasons that people were telling me over the last decade in Columbus, Ohio. And I had just happened to buy a plow and a salt spreader for my work truck in like November. And I was like, man, I'm going to be so pissed if we don't get a lot of snow this year. Because everybody was like, dude, you should do snow removal this year. And I was like, I don't really want to. Um, and I ended up doing it, and it was one of the best winters that Columbus has had in a decade. So everything happens for a reason, in my opinion. But it's not without hard work, and it's not without wanting to push yourself and be motivated and not be afraid to fail. And that was the biggest thing is I just dove in head first into the landscaping side of things and just made it what I wanted it to be. And I think it could be a lot more. So this year with a lot of traveling, it may be tough to keep up the pace I had last year because I won't be around as much. But I'm looking forward to continuing to grow that business and hopefully have it be kind of self-monitored at some point with somebody managing the whole thing where I can take care of things from out of town or in town, either by phone or computer if I need to.